pundits are asking what the vice president could have done differently to break through with the voters. Of course, she only had 3 months to campaign, rally. She kicked his butt all over the country over the course of those 2 months. She did every debate, every interview. People kept saying they didn't know who she was, so then she told them who she was. So how much more could she have done? Or should she? I mean, aside from butt naked dancing on the top of the table, I don't know what else she could have done.
I don't think she could have done more. I think she left it all out on the field. I think she raised $1 billion in 3 months. I think that she ran a flawless campaign. And
she ran a flawless campaign, they say. A flawless campaign. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. Joining us on the stream, if you're watching on Super Talk TV, is my friend Jobob. You're at like this weird intersection where you've run campaigns in the past and you've helped in that arena. You're a conservative pundit. You've been on the campaign trail, opening up for Vivek Ramaswamy at different college campuses across the nation. And I wonder, when you look at what people are saying about Kamala's campaign and how it was flawless, was it?
You know, there are a lot of things to say, but the problem, Chris, is I don't know if I want to give away any of the secrets to the Democrats. So I think we could, if you're a Democrat listening, why don't you go ahead and turn your radio off, because what I'm going to say is very simple. But I don't necessarily want them to hear it. Let's just, I don't know, some disclaimers out there. Climate change isn't real. There's only 2 genders. Okay, cool. I think we've probably eliminated most of them from listening. But I guess now I'll divulge the secret. They have to recognize reality. The most fascinating thing that I think I've seen in the last couple days, last 48 hours since the election, is that Democrats on CNN and MSNBC and all of your alphabet news networks weren't taking any responsibility for their own loss. The same thing with The View. The clip you just played, none of them recognized, hey, some of the stuff that we were saying drove people the wrong way. And if I were to pinpoint what big thing actually made a difference in this election, I think it's all of the media saying all of the crazy stuff that they were saying. And if they continue to do that, they will continue to lose without fail. So part of me wants them to continue to say the outlandish stuff and push more of America further to the right. And also part of me wants them to recognize it so they're, I don't know, maybe they can moderate back to where the Democrat Party used to be.
Is there any chance of that? I mean, the Democrat Party is going to have to go through an absolute rebuild right now. And you look at them and you wonder, how are they going to do that? If you're going to rebuild the Democrat Party to make it respectable again, because I don't think they are currently, what are you doing? What steps are you taking if you're a Democrat leader?
Yes, see, it's a really tough needle to thread, because you've got some of the actual tangible levers that the Democrat Party, the DNC, can use. They can take some of their high profile but also crazy people off of their committee assignments. They can take them off of like the fundraising lists. For example, people that come to mind, AOC and Bernie Sanders. AOC and Bernie Sanders are horrible for the Democratic Party, but they also raise a bunch of money, so it's problematic. In terms of like the rhetoric, the policy, the ideas, they are terrible for the Democrat Party, and they are pushing the party further to the left, which is not where America is. But the problem that the DNC has is they also bring in a ton of money. So in order to square those things, what you're going to have to do as the Democrat Party is find somebody who can do both of those things. One, not be crazy, and two, also bring in the same amount of money that your AOCs and your Bernie Sanders bring in terms of fundraising. And I think that's the only way they kind of dig themselves out of this. It was and always has been Nancy Pelosi, but obviously she's aging and won't be on the scene forever. But they're going to have to find a new leader to kind of coalesce around. And I'll tell you right now, the people in charge, Hakeem Jeffries, and all of the social media influencers who also have a vote in Congress for some reason, those aren't going to do it for in terms of them rebuilding in an effective way.
I think you nailed it. People always say Hakeem Jeffries, and I don't understand that at all.
Nah.
One question I do wonder is, you bring up the money. Does the money mean anything anymore? I mean, you look at Trump. He was outspent in the primaries. He was outspent in the presidential race again. Kamala Harris raises over $1 billion. She ends up $20 million in debt. even with all the money, is that what it takes? Is the money as important as it used to be?
That is a great point, and it's something that we all debate in kind of the political campaign circles for well, we've been debating for the last couple of years because there's this new wave of media. Because memes, I think, influence votes more than the news and ads on TV. I think you're starting to see money matter less and less. Now, what we shouldn't do is assume that money doesn't matter at all, because it definitely still does in terms of fundraising and making sure the candidates can go to meet the people that are going to vote for them. But at the same time, you're totally right. The social media landscape of politics has fundamentally changed. And I'll add in that the Federal Election Commission, the FEC, that oversees all of the rules and regulations in terms of spending, has no idea how to regulate the online meme culture world.
Yep.
Obviously, we've been saying the left can't meme for, I don't know, 8 years now, almost 10 years. And that's totally true. And it's an unregulated field of elections. And so when you ask, like, does the money matter? Yeah, it definitely still does. But you're also right in saying that it matters less and less when the people have their own voice and don't have to pay for the space on TV, terrestrial radio, all that sort of stuff that they used to.
Well, and you look at especially the Joe Rogan podcast. I mean, that's an easy one. How much of a dollar value would you put on that for Donald Trump?
You can't, I don't think you can actually put a dollar amount on his particular interview. You can't put a dollar amount on JD's particular interview. And you also can't put a dollar amount on the negative ad spend that Kamala Harris gave the Trump campaign by not going on. Like, the media covered that. I mean, at least conservative media covered that incessantly. And like, that's ad dollars also. That's earned media. And it all matters. And again, to your point, makes less of an impact with like actual fundraising dollars. So maybe you got a point there, Chris. Maybe if Democrats can just find somebody that's not crazy and hope that fundraising doesn't matter as much in the future, maybe that's how they pull themselves out.
But you got to have a little bit of crazy for it to work on social media. If you're in a purple state though, and you're tasked with being the campaign manager of a Democrat candidate, what advice are you giving them in 2026, 2028?
It depends on where they are, right? Because there's going to be several races that are strongly held Democrat races, and if pandering to the lefty audience is what has been working for you for the last 20 years to keep you getting reelected, I'm not saying anything. You're going to win that seat, and it's not going to really be a problem. But yeah, if you're in one of those kind of swing states, or you're trying to swing districts, and you're trying to upset the Republican, honest to God, I think the only thing I would say is don't be crazy, which is in fact, a crazy position to be in politically.
It's a hard sell. It's a hard sell for these guys.
If all you have to do is not be crazy, it shows you a sign of where we are at politically, but also, where the left has gone. I think people neglect the fact that the Washington Post, of all places, said, I think that this is the most liberal presidential ticket that the country has ever seen. And all the talk is like, oh, people don't like her because she's a woman, or people don't like her because she's black, or people don't like her because no. When you're the most liberal presidential ticket in American history, that is going to make an impact. And so the note that I would have to all Democrat candidates, just don't be that, and maybe you'll have a better chance.
But has the ship sailed? Is the Democrat Party going to go the way of the Whigs? Is there going to be something new that has to be created in its place? Or do you think that they're going to have an opportunity to kind of recalibrate and reform the Democrat Party in kind of like a more old school liberal ideology?
I think this is a question for both parties, and considering kind of the system that we exist in, I have always been a proponent of changing the party that you most align with. The infrastructure that is set up by the two parties is pretty hard to dismantle. And, you can say whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing. That just is. And so if somebody wants to change fundamentally, the go-to choice has always been like, well, third party, like the Libertarians, the Green Party. the infrastructure just isn't there. And by that I mean like the fundraising, the seats in different committees that would advocate for positions that the third party would have. It's just super difficult. So if you're going to actually attempt to do something different, my recommendation would be to just go and change the party. And we saw the Republican Party adapt beautifully. A lot of people that we know together were instrumental in changing the Republican Party and the way they go after campaigns. And I think that's what Democrats are going to need to do, rather than kind of like fizzle and kind of try this rebirth into something else. The infrastructure is too difficult to dismantle and topple at this point, I think.
Can they do that with the people that they have in place already, or is there going to have to be somebody new that comes onto the scene? Like I look at the farm system for the Democrats, and you see guys like Josh Shapiro or Wes Moore, and I don't see any personalities that I think could reform and recalibrate the party to that extent.
To answer your question, in short, no. No, they can't. You know what I think is interesting, and this is a little bit off topic of the question, but I feel like, I don't know if anybody's talking about this. Do you know who were the most excited people in the country that Donald Trump won? Josh Shapiro and Gavin Newsom in California, maybe even Gretchen Whitmer. Kamala Harris was a bad candidate, and they all knew she was a bad candidate. Nobody duked it out to try and get the nomination when Joe Biden stepped aside. They just said, Kamala, go ahead and go for it. We want a chance to actually run campaigns, and we want a chance to do that in 2028. If Kamala Harris had won and then ran for re-election in 2028, you've got Josh Shapiro, Gavin Newsom, and whether or not you like these guys, they are decently capable politicians with a political future, and their eyes are on the presidency. And if Kamala Harris won, they would have been pushed out to irrelevancy in terms of the years that would have gone on. They were livid that Trump lost in 2020. They were super excited that Trump won in 2024 to keep their own political hopes alive.
No, that makes sense. I have this scenario that I've been kicking around in my head, and we're talking about how they're going to have to reform their party. It doesn't seem like anybody waiting in the wings is really going to be that new standard bearer, at least not yet. It is early. Could you see a return to the Democrat Party by somebody like RFK or Tulsi Gabbard to challenge J.D. Vance in 2028? And how do you think that would fly with the left?
So that the last part of your question answers it. I could see it feasibly happening. They got to get through the primary. And right now, like the left of American politics, the people that control the primary are your fringiest 20 to 30% of people. And so to get through a primary, especially on the Democrat side, you've got to pander so hard and tax so hard to the left that I think it would be impossible for somebody like Tulsi or RFK or any other moderate kind of center left, center right, whatever individual to take that mantle in the Democrat Party. I even think Josh Shapiro might have a difficult time getting through the primary, considering that he has said some pretty sane things as of late. And so, yeah, I understand the idea. And if for some reason, I don't know, the Democrats did a crazy thing that they would never do, like push a candidate all the way through to the nomination without anybody having voted for them, if that were to take the place, then yes, then maybe we could see like an RFK or a Tulsi Gabbard in the general, but I just don't think they'd make it through the primary.
Short answer, no, never going to happen. I appreciate it. Jobob he's one of the best. Funny guy, stand-up comedian, Turning Point USA contributor. How can we keep in touch with you, Jobob? Where can we find you?
Jobob, no E. There's not a lot of Jobobs out there, and if you see one that's a brown guy, you're like, yeah, that name doesn't fit. That's probably me. On all the social media platforms, pretty easy to find. But dude, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Yeah. No, I want to get you on more. I think you provide very, very unique insight with your background. I mean, with your background working on campaigns and now the stand-up comedy stuff, the conservative politics. I think that you're a very unique intersection. We definitely want to utilize you a bit more on the show.
Thanks, man. I would love to.
Yeah, absolutely.